guys, thanks for joining me today for another UX Teardown. My name is Kendra and I am with the Pages Media, and a couple times a month I just do these videos of quick UX teardowns where we look at websites, sometimes the whole thing, and sometimes just specific parts of a user journey or the way something is laid out, with the goal of just helping merchants be able to optimize their own website for a better user experience. So today we're actually going to be looking at more of a user journey based on how something is laid out on the page and based on a user's possible perception of something on a website. So we are looking today at a vitamin and supplement company called Life Extension. And one of the things that we are going to look at is one, how you navigate through a collections page, and then what it looks like when you add to cart. So we're going to focus a lot on the user journey here. We're going to talk a little bit about layout and just some tips for how things respond. So we're going to look at it on desktop as we usually do. I obviously don't know for this company what the percentage of mobile users versus desktop users is. So, in 2024, a lot of websites typically lean more heavily towards mobile users. But there are a lot of brands in specific niches that see about 50% still of desktop users. So even if you have a lot more mobile users, it doesn't necessarily mean that desktop should be ignored. But we're going to look at it on desktop for the sake of ease. So I just chose a specific collection. So I went to products, vitamins, and supplements, and then I chose something from here. Okay, so I land on this page. And so what they have surfaced here is a bestseller up top. I don't have a ton of feedback on that. The thing that it draws attention away from, though, it took me actually a little bit to find, is that over here is where they have their filters, okay? So I'm a big fan, if you've seen my videos, I'm a big fan of left side navigation and filtering and stuff like that. But it actually took me a little bit to recognize that this is what that was, and I'm not exactly sure if it was because of the space that it took up or because this was surfaced first. I'm not entirely sure. Took me a while, which is fine. The thing I want you to pay attention to is, so when we click on this, so anytime there's a click event, so you're going to click on something, there's going to be a response. And when we click on this, so I'm going to go click fish oil. The response time was, if you watch it again, super abrupt and fast, almost a little bit too fast. So we don't want things to be too quick. That can be pretty jarring. It can be a little bit of an accessibility thing sometimes. But the issue that I ran into when I use this is that it changed so quickly, and there wasn't necessarily a ton of feedback for it, that I didn't actually realize that it had changed. So the first time I interacted with this, I clicked on it several times because I didn't realize that it was moving. And so again, I'm just one user, right? There are tons of other people that I'm sure have interacted with this, and it has been not an issue for them. But the quick transition is pretty jarring. And again, for me, not enough movement or not enough feedback that I thought it actually changed it all. The other thing that stuck out to me was, so they have here these picture headers for specific categories. So when I click onto multivitamins, it's got one, probiotics has one. And these are headers, basically. These are serving as headers to let the customer know, hey, anything from this point down is in the category of probiotics. It actually looked to me like an ad that had been interjected. So I don't know if you guys have ever blogging sites or recipe sites are pretty bad for this, but I pulled up one because I wanted to show you what I thought it kind of looked like. So That one just went away. Let's see if I can find another one. So a lot of times blogging sites, and honestly, even some right here, a lot of times even some e-commerce sites will interject ads like in between sections of things said. Like I know that other websites do it. I think it's particularly bad on like blogging and recipe sites. So like right here, where you're reading. Here's another one. This one has a ton. You're reading. You're trying to find information. You're just going about your business, and all of a sudden there's an ad, and then you read, and then there's an ad, and then you look at a picture, and then there's an ad, and you read more, and there's an ad, and because of the sizing and the layout and the spacing, that's what it looked like to me. So that was another thing that contributed to my not thinking that the category had changed, because I actually thought that they were ads interjected throughout the page because of the way that they look. So again, I would think that if they have, if they could pull some data. So this would be, as a merchant, this is something that you could look at. If you're seeing, people bouncing from a page, or people not interacting with the page, or whatever, this could be something that you look at, like how is it coming across to your users? Because it makes sense when you are designing and building a page. These are headers, there's pictures, it's a different design element, it incorporates more photography, and so on the surface it makes a lot of sense. But if somebody thinks that these are ads, like I did, and you don't necessarily know what other sites your users are used to navigating, but I read something from, I think it was the Nielsen Norman Group, that talked about how people spend more time on other websites than they do on your website, and so they're gonna bring that information, and with them they can't not. That's just how the brain works. And so if they're scrolling through here and they're like, there's an ad, and again, they're not ads, but if it's similar to that could be a reason for someone to not want to interact with this if they think that there's, just a ton of ads. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and this probably would not be as big of an issue on mobile. So if I'm up at the top here, so let's say I'm all the way up top here, I just landed on the page and I want to go down to this bottom one. So it's going to drop me down here. There is right over here an option for this to bring you back to the top. So if someone uses that, easy breezy. A lot of times though, on desktop, people are going to be inclined to use the back button on their browser. Just naturally, that's kind of just the instinct. But in case they don't see this, and again, they're more likely going to, if that's their just their navigation style, they tend to use that. So if I'm up here and I click down here to the bottom and I'm like, I don't want to see this, I want to go back up, I could navigate here, but if I use the browser back button, nothing actually happens. So it doesn't matter how many times I click it. So if you look up here, the URL is changing, but there actually isn't any action on the page, so it's not moving. So typically, stuff like this doesn't happen as often on mobile. Usually it supports like browser functions pretty good. But again, depending on your users, and again, this is one of those use cases that, like, for a lot of companies, like if they have a younger demographic, or if their traffic is like heavily mobile and not a lot of people using desktop, this isn't going to come up. But we're also looking at supplements. We're looking at things for like inflammation, heart and immune support. You're looking at things that could potentially, like, you're going to have maybe a younger marker, but it's really possible too that you are pulling in maybe like an older demographic, which means that the way that they're going to use a website is going to be different. So these are things to pay attention to. You want navigation to be as easy as possible for the most amount of users. So things like including, like, slowing down that change on the page, giving more feedback, making sure that there are clear pathways back. And again, they have this navigate to the top. You could use these. So it's not like there is nothing happening. It's just when you think about certain demographics and how people are going to respond to it, this might be something to consider. So that was one part of the user journey that I wanted to look at. The other part was the add to cart function, because I thought this was something that could be improved. So let's say I've decided that I am going to buy this probiotic, okay? And I'm going to add this to cart. So it's got a lot of good information here. It tells me what it is. It tells me what it supports. It tells me how many there is, the reviews, how much it is, how much the discount is. Great. I'm going to add this to cart. So I get this pop-up cart modal. There's kind of a lot happening here. A lot of movement. The thing that I don't think is great is that, so I have a message up here that says your item was added to cart. I actually cannot see my cart from this page. It gives me a whole bunch of other information, but nothing that I would need to see right now. So there is the feedback, but typically you can see what's been placed in your cart. So what I have here is this information about how much more I need to spend to get free shipping, exclusive perks. I don't know. That's for me personally, this is a lot to read, right? When this pops up at me, that's a lot to read. And then I've got best sellers, but I could continue shopping, but I actually can't see what's in my cart. So I can come here and it'll take me into a cart. But even then, when I come here, it's still not the first thing that I see. The first thing that I see is this. And not that this is bad information, but I think the question we want to ask is, could this be presented in another way? Could this be cleaner where it's not taking up so much room on the page, or where it doesn't block me as much from seeing this? And that's the question. Could this be done in a better way to make it more usable? So I have to come here to my cart and I have to scroll down to see, okay, this is actually in my cart. So a lot of brands do this, right? Because they want to, so if I click here, it shows me up here. You click on the cart here, there's an order by item, which is, that's interesting. I actually haven't seen that a lot. I don't necessarily know why it's in the cart, but that's an interesting idea. Some things that I would think would be better in an account than a cart, like a find my order. But the thing about the adding to cart, so I'll add another one so you can kind of see it. I think a lot of brands do this, so that's pretty slow load too, because I think probably having to load all this stuff. I think a lot of brands do this because they obviously want to upsell. Some brands, I think, do it because they don't necessarily want easy access to be able to remove something from the cart. I don't necessarily know their intention behind this particular action. Usually these things are done with intention. I don't know what the intention was here, but the thing that kind of stinks about it though is that if I want to see my cart at a quick glance from this screen, I have to go, I have to click here. And then I'm in the cart, and then if I want to continue shopping, I have to get back out of the cart. So there's a lot of back and forth movement here when this could be surfaced in a different way. So again, I can see it here, but when you add something, that initial pop-up doesn't actually show you what's in the cart. It only shows you everything else that you may or may not want to see. And again, it's more about presentation of information. None of the information was bad or unnecessary. It's just that, is that the right time to be serving it? So when I add something, it tells me that I have reached premier status, which gives me free shipping. So again, that's good information. People want to know what they're being charged for shipping, but for me, the presentation of the information was not in an order that I thought was conducive to me making a purchase. If anything, I feel like that kind of stuff blocks people from making a purchase. But again, maybe people see that and they serve that, the intention they serve that is, you're really close to free shipping, go ahead and buy more. But you don't necessarily know how people are going to interact with it. So from a user journey perspective, that could actually hinder people from completing their user journey, just kind of depending again on it's all about your customer base and how they interact with it. So there is no, we want user journeys to be easy. We know that. We want user journeys to be easy. We don't want there to be a lot of friction. We don't want people to be bottlenecked. That's consistent guidance. But what that looks like is going to be really dependent on your specific customer base. So this is where, pulling your data comes into play here, because maybe they don't see any issues with this at all. Maybe that process is really efficient for the people that use the website. And then if that's the case, then, you change nothing. But if you find that people are coming to pages and they're immediately leaving, or they start a journey and they don't check out, or, things like that, or if they abandon navigation and go to search, whatever the trend that you're seeing is, these types of things are always worth looking at, because users are not always going to use the website and interact with things the same way that the designer would or the developer would. And so it's always worth kind of assessing some other areas. So the user journey is pretty important, because if people get frustrated enough, they just won't buy it. And obviously, as an e-commerce brand, that's not what you want. You want people to purchase on your site. So this is just a good reminder to consider how things are surfacing on the page, consider the customer journey, and consider your specific customer base and what they would need to be able to successfully complete their user journey on your website. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.